So before we get into the benefits of a lunch and learn, I want to first just quickly go over what exactly a lunch and learn is. I'm sure most of you know, but a lunch and learn is a lunch hour presentation facilitated by an organization designed to circulate information to attendees on a specific topic. The great thing about lunch and learns is they can be done literally in any industry. Today we'll be talking about more of an MSP-focused lunch and learn, but they can be applied to any kind of company. So now that we know what a lunch and learn is, why are they beneficial? So lunch and learns first strengthen the community. They help build and strengthen the bond between specific groups of people that are joining you for lunch. The prospects become more apt to attending if they know that some of their friends and peers are going to be there. It's also a great networking opportunity for attendees. You know, a lot of these people that are going to be at your lunches could potentially do business with each other. So, you know, they're going to hear what you have to say and be educated by your content, but it's also killing two birds with one stone for them if they get to meet potential new business. It's also a direct form of contact. So unlike other marketing initiatives, you can avoid the phone tag, the wait times, the misunderstandings via email. A lunch and learn is a very simple and fast way to communicate your message to your prospects. And finally, the most obvious reason for lead generation. If people attend your lunch and learn, they're obviously interested in what you have to say. Use this as an opportunity to follow up and pitch your product. Attendees will see you as an expert in your field and won't mind hearing more about what your company has to offer. So Mark, how has Nex-Tech benefited from a lunch and learn initiative?
I think a lot of the ways that you covered, you know, obviously the goal going into the lunch and learn is to generate some leads, but I think some of the benefits that maybe you don't think about or kind of go unnoticed is, number one, it's marketing your company. It's getting your name out there, especially if you're going into new markets and things like that. You know, buying somebody lunch and, you know, and giving them a short, brief introduction, overview of a product, a solution, a service, those types of things. I think just getting that name recognition and marketing your company. Also, you know, the networking opportunity I think is huge because you're bringing in, you know, different people from different industries, and if you can mix in maybe a few existing clients with, you know, a handful of new clients, you get good interaction around your company and maybe how your services and solutions are helping your customers, and they can kind of help you out in the room from that standpoint. And kind of the last piece I think is just from the perspective of, if you've got, you know, a vendor that you want to bring in, maybe you're working with a specific client on a solution and you want to bring a vendor in, that you really can utilize that vendor to set up your lunch and learn, allow them, you know, a short portion of that time to kind of give an update on that specific piece, and a lot of times that can draw people in.
Definitely, I agree on every point you made for sure. Thank you, Mark. Let's take a look now at what the ideal lunch and learn format looks like for MSPs. So you want to try to have your lunch at some kind of upscale steakhouse or fine dining restaurant with a private room. That's the main thing. It needs to have a private room. You need to have privacy to do your presentation and not be distracted by the goings-on of the restaurant. Ideally, you want 20 to 30 registrants. Remember that everyone that registers for your lunch is a lead, whether they attend or not. They're going to be followed up with whether they attend or not. So the more people that register, the better. But ideally, you really want 15 to 20 people there, especially if you are doing the lunch by yourself. It can become very overwhelming if you have more than 20 people. You know, you might not be able to address every question that you want to, or spend the ample amount of time with everyone that, you know, has questions or wants to know more about your product after the lunch, and so forth. So 15 to 20 is ideal. You want to have a very organized registration process. This will help you in the long run, and it will show your registrants that you are professional and you know what you're doing. So you want your lunch to be a 1-hour session with a 45-minute presentation. Have some time before and after to allow people to get there and sit down and get their drinks ordered, and then after the lunch, you want to give yourself some time to answer questions and walk around and spend time with specific groups of people that are super interested. You want it to be a 3-course meal. That way, during your presentation, the food flow really goes with the flow of your presentation. There's no awkward lulls where no one's eating and everyone's waiting for their food. 3 courses really helps balance things out. And try to offer beer and wine if that's something that you're agreeable with your company. Your attendees will appreciate the, kind of relaxed atmosphere, and to be honest, if they have a little bit of wine, they're probably more apt to sign up with you or take advantage of whatever offer you're offering. And that leads me to my next point. Remember to close with an offer. So lunch and learns are great for education, but to really close strong and hit home with people, it's nice to have some kind of promotional offer or a special one-day promotion that is only available at the lunch. And don't forget dessert. People really appreciate dessert, and I think it goes a long way. It goes good with wine, too. So let's get into our pre-lunch checklist. Like I said at the beginning of the webinar, this is going to be our lengthiest part of the presentation. It definitely has the most content, so I'm really excited to share this with people. I've been doing lunches for eFolder for 2.5 years, so I have lots of experience, lots of stories. I have lots of things to share, so thank you again for joining us today so I can share my wealth of knowledge with you. So this is just a table, basically, of a timetable of what to do before your lunch. Basically, how to start out from the very beginning all the way leading up to one day. So it is ideal to start planning your lunch 2 months in advance. And especially if you're doing like an eFolder, we were doing at one point, I think 50 lunches a month. So we had a lot going on. So we had to be extra organized and give ourselves ample time to plan for anything that went wrong too. So 2 months is ideal. You want to start by selecting your lunch locations. And I'm going to go into each one of these points in my next slides. So I won't go over to this too much, but this is on the webinar recording. So this is a good piece of information just to reference. So 2 months from your lunch and learn. This is when you want to select your lunch location. And we use a mapping software called eSpatial. And I have the information provided in here too, but that is how we actually select the cities that we go to. You basically want to start, if you're doing a national lunch and learn initiative, you want to start in any big city. Any big city with these restaurants is a good place to start. Those are good markets. Then you want to schedule your lunch dates after you have those and work with each of these restaurants has like a national account manager who will work with you for your lunch dates and then in turn talk to all of the different locations for you. So that's they make it easy. Then you want to book your restaurants, and remember to keep in mind your restaurant has to have a private room, it has to have AV capabilities for your presentation, and it has to have business professional setting. It doesn't have to, but I think to get the most out of your lunches, you want to host it in a really nice restaurant. I think it's a lot. And then this is just a snapshot of our mapping software, eSpatial. Basically, we upload a list of contacts and their addresses to eSpatial, and it maps them out. So this is a snapshot of a bunch of partners that we at eFolder have across the country. So this shows us where we should go to do lunches. It shows us where our markets are. Plain and simple, it lays it out for us. And you can do a lot with this website. There's so much you can do, but that's mainly what we use it for. So 1 month from your lunch and learn, this is when you should be building your event registration page. We use Eventbrite. There's lots of other options to use, but Eventbrite has been great. They have a lot of great integrations. Then you want to send your event dates and registration links to your salespeople. So whoever is going out on the road to do the lunch needs to be updated and informed about the date so they can book their travel and their hotels and so forth if they are traveling far. And you also want to send your registration links to all of your salespeople. So when they're talking to prospects, they can talk about the lunch and send them the information to people that are interested in going. So 3 to 4 weeks. Oh wait, we have a question here. Let's see if I get to this. I will address this question. Is it really a best practice to offer alcohol during lunch and learns in the middle of a workday? Do professionals often drink before heading back to their offices? I have been all over the country, and it's different in every city for sure. A lot of people do like wine with their steak, and they do appreciate that we do offer that. I actually have never had someone request a cocktail, which is good because we usually start these lunches like right at noon, and that's a little aggressive. But a lot of people do like to enjoy a beer or a glass of wine before heading back to the office, and it's a personal preference. And you know, we like to honor that and you know, provide a relaxed atmosphere for people. So thank you for your question. Okay. So 3 to 4 weeks from your lunch and learn. This is when you should be creating your recipient list for your email blasting. You know, start with a great house list, and I'll get into that later in the presentation. Yeah, so those are the main people that you're going to be promoting via email. So you want to have a strong house list. You want to search LinkedIn for additional prospects. You know, if you're going to an area that you don't have that many people in your house list, but you know the market's strong there, use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great tool. We call it the 1-2 punch, where we use LinkedIn's filters and features to search for MSP partners in whatever area we're going to, and then we find their information, and we use data.com to then purchase their contact information, so we can email them and let them know about our lunches. Do you charge a fee to the registrants for the training? No, no fees. Our lunch and learns are completely complimentary. That's one thing that's important. You know, we even pay for parking. We do it all. So it entices people, I think, to show up more if you promise a completely complimentary experience. Okay, next slide. So 2 to 3 weeks from the lunch and learn, this is when you're going to begin your email campaign. So we send out 3 to 4 email invitations, and I'm sure many of you have received them over the past couple years. And I do apologize if they became too much for some people. But we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of our event. You know, sometimes our emails end up in spam boxes and so forth. So we send 3 to 4 email invitations, and we spread them out over 2 weeks leading up to the event. We used to use Pardot. That was our CRM we had for a long time, and then we just transferred over to Marketo, which has been great. But there's also Vertical Response, MailChimp, HubSpot. There's a ton of email marketing software that are available to you. Okay. Answer another question really quick. Will this info be available for reference after the presentation? Yes, of course. I'm sending out the recording and the slide deck, so all this information will be made available to you guys. So Mark, I just kind of went over a little bit about how we drive attendance for our lunches. So what other ways do you guys drive attendance for your lunch events?
Yeah, I would say we do some similar type marketing. You know, the e-blast is very handy. One of the things we've done with our sales staff is we'll do different incentive programs for capturing email addresses, because it's an easy way to build your network for marketing campaigns. And you know, the cost of sending out an emailer versus a digital mailer is or paper mailer is, you know, way less expensive. So that's one thing that we do is incentivize those sales reps to capture as many emails as they can, so we can put that into our list. I do agree LinkedIn is a great tool and definitely something that you should use for those additional prospects. One of the things that we also do is we will utilize our event page, but we'll link to it in like our email signatures and that type of stuff. So when we're communicating with clients and that type of stuff, even vendors from that perspective, is, you know, we'll have an image of, you know, hey, here's our lunch and learn, click to register. So we do a lot of that. We do a monthly newsletter that will promote it. So each month we can, as we're leading up, we can promote through that. So a lot of the similar ways, and a few other areas that we do, and then just getting the information to the sales recs and having them have a couple handouts or something that when they're meeting with clients or if they have some prospects that they're working on, they can stop by and personally invite them.
Great. That's super helpful and good information to know. I have another question. This is a great question. How do you decide who you are emailing? If you want 20 people at an event, how many people do you send an email to? This is part of the Lunch and Learn formula that I feel we at eFolder have almost perfected. We blast about, I would probably say 500 to 1,000 people per lunch to get 20 to 30 people registered. So those are the numbers that we see. Like I said, like MSPs doing their own Lunch and Learns are going to have a very different market because, you know, we're promoting our lunches to kind of a niche. Your guys' target market is going to be a lot more broad, especially if you cater to a lot of different clients. So you probably won't have the exact same numbers. That's just what we've seen here at eFolder. Thank you for your question. All right. Thank you, Mark. Moving along. Okay, so now we're down to 1 to 2 weeks before your Lunch and Learn. This is when you start to get a good look at how your registration list is looking. If you don't have that many people on it, if it's, you know, the numbers aren't there for you, there's more ways to get people to sign up. And we like to use LinkedIn InMails for this. Although it is expensive, I think it's like $10 per InMail. I'm sorry, we haven't done it in a while, but InMails are great. It's just like it's a personal message through LinkedIn. Keep the script really short. Be like, hey, like I saw we're connected with this person on LinkedIn, came across your information, and I'm hosting a free complimentary event that I think you'd be interested in. If they write back, that's when you send them the registration link. Don't give them the registration link unless they reply. That way you know your interest, and LinkedIn InMails has this scoring system about replies. So, so yes. Then this is when you also begin, we call them sanity checks. This is when you look over your registration list to weed out the ineligible people. So, you know, if you're an MSP that solely is focusing in the finance sector and doing your Lunch and Learn catering just to financial companies, and you see your registration list is full of dentists or full of lawyers all of a sudden, make sure to contact them and let them know that you appreciate their interest, but this event is not for them. You know, keep it firm, but keep it polite. It's always a little bit awkward, but you know, you want your target market to be what you want it to be. So the Friday prior to your Lunch and Learn, this is when we send out our Wingman Blast emails to the registrants. This is just, it serves as a reminder email and an invitation to bring a peer or two if they want. This helps beef up your registration list, and also, you know, incentivizes people to come a little bit more if they have a friend that they can bring. People tend to feel more comfortable if they go with someone that they know. So this is also when you create your name badges and your check-in list. We had people traveling, we had our sales team traveling all over the country, so, and they were doing 3 lunches per tour. So it was pretty impossible for them to just bring all of this collateral with them on their travels. So our team would make badges and check-in lists and prepare all of the collateral that they needed for each lunch, and we ship them to the restaurants. So if you do plan on getting a big Lunch and Learn initiative going in the future, this is probably the best way to organize your lunch materials. That way your sales guys aren't stressed out about losing things or things just getting damaged and they're traveling. It's worked out really well for us. So now we're at 1 to 2 days before your Lunch and Learn. I would say 2 days is a good time to update your restaurant contact with logistical information. So they're going to want to know how many people to set for, what time will the guests be arriving, what time will the host be arriving, what's his name, what's her name, confirm the menu options with them. And one thing I didn't mention before, in the registration process, it's a great idea to have your registrants select their menu options upon registration. You don't have to use that information, but it's a good way for them to, you know, it's a good way for them to show up. Better chance. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. They'll be more incentivized to show up if they think that there is a plate of food waiting for them, basically. So it's a good practice to use. And
Yeah,
this is also, yeah.
Courtney, I was going to chime in on that. That was going to be something I was going to mention too. Is that we do that quite often. You know, when we first started doing lunch and learns, we didn't really do a whole lot of confirming menu items or select the entree of your preference. But we've kind of found, just doing these and doing more of them it really gives the customer kind of a sense of ownership that they're ordering the steak or the chicken or the fish or whatever that entree may be. The sides may all be the same, but when they have a little bit of ownership or a little bit of an investment into the lunch and learn, just from selecting the menu item, I really think that does go a long way for helping the attendance grow with not having so many register and not come.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, one day before your lunch and learn, you want to get your reminder calls going. And it seems like a tedious task, and it can be, but this is super, super important. First of all, it's a reminder call. You're reminding your registrants about the lunch because, they might have registered 3 weeks ago and didn't add it to their calendar, and they totally could have forgotten about it, which happens all the time. So a reminder call is just a very courteous, polite way to let them know it's still happening and you appreciate their interest if they can make it or not. And yeah, it's a great practice. And we use a power dialer called Phone Burner because we are doing so many lunches, and it's a great resource to have if you're doing high volume calls like that. And Mark, do you guys do reminder calls as well?
Yes, we do. It's like you said, it's just a great way to, number one, kind of be a reminder. Number two, just that personal touch of, hey, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. We got, a great event planned and hope you attend type of thing. So I think it's a great opportunity to just reinvest in that customer and invite them personally one last time.
Yeah, exactly. And we went through a phase where we weren't doing reminder calls, and the show up rate was dramatically different. So we promised ourselves that we would continue to do that because it helped our show up rate so much. So this is one of the most important pieces of the pre-checklist, I would say. Okay, so let's get into the actual lunch portion of the presentation. Let's see, I have a question here. Can you use automated reminder calls? Yeah, so Phone Burner is basically an automated voicemail. So you record one voicemail per lunch, and you go through your list. And if you talk to someone, that's great. That's the point of the call. But most of the time, you're not going to reach someone. So it is helpful to have that automated part of the power dialer. And I couldn't imagine going back to manual phone calls after using Phone Burner for 2 years. Thank you for your question. Okay. So Mark, I want to hand it over to you real quick and just let us know what the format looks like for Nex-Tech's Lunch and Learn.
All right. So basically how our format goes is we kind of follow the 1 hour event. We usually start around 5 to 10 minutes after noon. That just kind of allows some of those attendees that can't leave the office until right at noon, or it gives some time for travel and those types of things. So we start shortly after noon. When everybody shows up, we get kicked off right at 5 after, right at 10 after, and we work with the host staff or the wait staff to make sure they're taking care of the meal and doing that piece for us so we can start the presentations. We always kick it off. We always got to keep it fun and light. So we might start with a video or something just to kind of get the event kicked off in that way. We'll go through basically an agenda of kind of what the topics we're going to cover. And I think one of the main areas that we try to do is we try to cover like 2 or 3 topics. I know there's been times where we'll do one topic, but I think if you can spread it out a little bit and maybe cover 2 or 3 different things, it kind of helps with that attendance piece, because you might have somebody that's interested in one product, but while they're there, they're learning about 1 or 2 other that, or service or solution that may have a benefit to their business. So I think you're spreading out your reach a little bit by doing that. I talked a little bit about having vendors come in. We've done those before. What we try to do is we try to have Nex-Tech own the event. So we'll kick off the event. We'll kind of do our intros, give a little overview. We'll bring the vendor up to kind of do the meat and potatoes piece, and then we always will close it out with how that ties into Nex-Tech or your company and what that means for the customer. Then basically we always start on time, we always end on time. I think that's very important, that if you're scheduling an event, you always got to end on time or a little bit early to respect everybody's time. And then another piece of it is we always try to have product or some type of a demo at the event. So maybe it's tablets or laptops, or it's surveillance cameras, or whatever that product or solution or service that you're talking about is. You have some devices there that the customers can look at, touch, feel, whatever, have kind of a demo on the side after the event's over. We like to have a couple employees on there as well. So after the event, kind of like Courtney talked about, when you get 20 or 30 people in a room and there's one presenter, it's difficult for that person to answer everybody's questions. And the real event happens after the presentation, when those customers are sticking around, they're asking questions. Maybe they want to set up an appointment to talk further. If you're one person to 20, it's very difficult to get to all of them before some of them have to leave. So if you can have a couple people there to help answer questions, get additional contact info, do some follow-up, I think that really helps. And then the last piece, we try to do a giveaway. So we try to have some type of a gift basket, a device, or whatever the case may be. So when we close it out, that's that extra incentive. Plus we do the promotional offer like Courtney talked about.
Great, awesome. And our formats, how we do things are very, very similar. So I mean, I was excited to talk to you guys initially and get you on this webinar, just because I know that your experience doing Lunch and Learns is so applicable to everyone who is on this call. So it's really, really priceless information. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Slide. So here is what our lunch event execution looks like. So similar to what Mark said, we schedule it for about an hour, and we tack on another 15 minutes for travel time, for people to get there, get settled, get their drinks ordered, and then some ample time after the lunch too, to be able to speak with people. People can leave if they want as soon as you're done, but there's always going to be a couple that stick around that are really interested. And like Mark said, that's where the real event is. Those are the hot leads for sure. You're going to want, like I mentioned earlier, 15 to 20 attendees. If you do have someone that's doing the lunch with you, like a joint company or another colleague, it's great to get more, but this is good for just one presenter. You're going to want a registration table at the entrance of your room. This is where your name badges and check-in sheet and your collateral will be, and that's where you'll stand to greet people, thank them for coming, make sure to introduce yourself to everyone who comes through the door, not just because it's polite, but you also want to make sure that everyone who's there is supposed to be there. So that's where the check-in list comes in handy. You want to have a 3-course meal, like I mentioned earlier. The way that it flows just goes with the presentation. That way people aren't just stuck eating one plate the whole time and then finish or sitting there, and sometimes it just gets awkward if people aren't continuously eating. And if you choose to do so, offer beer and wine. Keep it interactive with your attendees. Don't blow through your presentation and then ask for questions at the end. Everybody always hates that. Work with the servers. This is a very important piece, I think. Let them know your timeline. Let them know when you want the salad to drop, when you're going to begin your presentation. Just lay out your expectations so that things go the way that you want them to go. And finally, make an offer. Like Mark said, it's always nice to close strong and to give people a real purpose for being there, and give them the opportunity to walk away with something great, like a one-time offer. Okay, let's see. Okay, get to that question later. Okay, so here is what our lunch event timeline looks like. And this is, like I said, this is just is what has worked for eFolder. It can be completely done any way that you see fit with your presentation. But we like to see guests usually arrive between, sometimes as early as 11:45. I've had people get there super early and sit there. So anytime between 11:50 and 12:10, that's when your guests are going to arrive. So I like to always start my presentations and have people pretty much be eating their salad when I start. That way I know that the food isn't going to be coming out like really late into the presentation. So again, set your expectations with the servers. Tell them, you know, you want the salad or the first course, the soup, whatever. You want it to start when you start your presentation. So then at 12:30, that should be about where the salad plates are cleared. And again, the servers will go around and take everyone's order as they're getting there and getting settled. So they'll have all of that information. 12:35 to 12:40 is ideal for the entree drop. People usually take about 15 to 20 minutes to eat their main entree. So around 12:50, 12:55, this is when the entree plate should be cleared. And then 1 to 1:15, this is when you should be wrapping up your presentation, talking about your closing offer, and letting people enjoy their dessert. And sometimes people have to leave and they'll ask to take their dessert to go, which is totally fine. But for the people that can stick around, offering dessert and coffee is really great and I think very courteous. So yeah, that was our Lunch and Learn execution. It was pretty short, but I just want to go into our post-lunch checklist now. So once everyone is fed and left and you are by yourself once again to enjoy the rest of your day, you want to reference the check-in list with your Excel registration list, sheet to mark who was there and who was not. So attended, not attended, yes, no, however you see fit. Just make sure all of the attendee info is there. That's what's important. And this is information that you should have captured before they got there via the registration process. But sometimes people register after you're already on your way to the lunch. You know, people register the same day, so you're not going to have those people's information, but they're still a valuable lead. So make sure everyone who comes to the door is either on the check-in list, and if they're not, they should be signing their full name, their company name, and their email address. Yeah, so definitely include the walk-ins if they're eligible to be there. And then once you have that, everyone's sales process is different, but send it off to marketing or sales or whoever handles that lead process. And then you are free to enjoy your own lunch with a well-deserved glass of wine. That's usually how I wrap up my lunch events. And here's a picture of one of our community coordinators, Ari, and one of our other employees, Sam, and they're enjoying lunch with some partners. I think that was in San Diego. I'm not too sure, but yeah, you can tell they're having a great time. And I just wanted to share some snapshots of the eFolder lunch experience. Obviously, that is a picture that I took in the upper left corner. That is a McCormick and Schmick's meal and the kind of food that you will get to enjoy if you do host your lunches at those kinds of restaurants. I mean, the opportunity was great. We got to travel once a month all over the country, you know, see cities that I would have never been able to visit before, like went to Nashville. That's a picture of me with some of my partners at a happy hour event in Chicago. The upper right picture is a partner panel that we did in Austin, Texas, I believe. So like, there's so many formats that you can do lunch and learn events for. Once we did them for a long time, we started experimenting with happy hours, and partner panels are a great way to have your clients come on and sing your praises and give testimony about your business. People always love the partner panels. It's not so much of a hard sales pitch, it's more educational, and it's really great lead generation.
Hey, Courtney, I think those happy hours are great too, because you can kind of take this especially tying in back into the question with the beer and wine at lunches. You can take this same format and do a dinner event or happy hour type event where it's similar, but maybe you do some appetizers and drinks and stuff like that, and it's still light and fun, and It's just maybe a different time of day that works better, or maybe it's just a different atmosphere, a little more intimate type setting. So I think you can really take this and use it in a lot of different areas.
Exactly. Yeah, and we found success with our happy hours, not in every market. I think it's a specific format that works in some cities and others not so well. But
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, you know, I had this was probably one of the biggest turnouts I had for my happy hour. But then I also had one where 2 people came or 3 people came. So they're definitely a much more intimate setting, but they're very much more laid back and just provide a kind of different a different feel, which is great. You want to mix things up if you do lunches a lot. We also talked about doing a brunch and learn at one point, and we thought about doing kind of a breakfast series, and that's definitely still on the table for us, I think, in the future. I think it's people like breakfast meetings. You know, if they have a light morning, they can't make a lunch event. Breakfast sometimes works out, so we'll see where that goes.
And one of the things you touched on too, you know, like you said, depending on, you know, this was a more heavily attended happy hour, but you've had occasions where maybe 2 or 3 attend. I would just encourage everybody on the call that don't get discouraged if you know your goal is 15 to 20, but maybe you get 5 or 10. Don't get discouraged, because you still have 5 to 10 people who are genuinely interested, who came out, and you know, it just makes it a little bit more personal. You can have more personal conversations. You can tweak your presentation a little bit to open it up on the floor maybe a little bit more. And I know when we've had some that are maybe less attended, we'll start the meeting with, hey, what would you like to learn about today? What can we, you know, teach or educate, or what kind of information we can provide? And then we tweak and adjust, and it makes it a little more intimate and more valuable. So don't get discouraged if you don't get the registrations you want.
Exactly. And I've had to improvise so many times on the fly. You know, if everyone is there for a BDR lunch, but there's a lot of interest in Anchor, of course I'll talk about Anchor. You know, you want to make your registrants happy and make them feel comfortable with their choice in going, and make them feel appreciated and providing the information that they want to hear. So yeah, absolutely. Great advice, Mark. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I want to just go over some additional tips to really make your lunch a success. So I kind of touched on each of these things throughout my presentation, most of them, but I just want to reiterate their importance. So a great invite list. To start your Lunch and Learn initiative, you really need a house list. The house list should be legally compliant. It should honor opt-outs and follow the Can-Spam Act. It should also be growing all the time. So as additional marketing tactics capture new suspects or prospects or existing client contacts, they should be added to your list via your salespeople, your marketing team, what have you. With a robust house list, you have the first and most important ingredient for a Lunch and Learn initiative, a list of high-quality targets that would appreciate education and engagement from your firm. And then you also want to have educational content. Your seminars should deliver insights and learnings that prospects can execute without necessarily buying something from you. Many people are cynical about a tactic involving a free lunch, but the reality is no one is going to eat free food if the content is boring, irrelevant, or if it's a pure sales pitch. You want to make it fun. Like Mark said, they do a giveaway, just, you know, incorporating things with your content to make it not only educational, but enjoyable too. So, I mean, a free lunch is a commodity, but free education is priceless. You also, a good thing to do also if you're, you know, just getting into lunches is to do joint partnerships with other companies. So sometimes doing a lunch involves risk, and a great way to reduce that risk is to partner with another company. So joint venture partners can bring a wide array of assets to the table that, you know, that help make an event a success. So additional prospects, lists, seminar content, marketing dollars, brand credibility, savvy coworkers, they're all so valuable to help you achieve your goals. Here at eFolder, we did joint lunches with OpenDNS. We did a couple Veeam lunches where we had our Veeam reps come. We did our Ninja RMM, tons of joint marketing events. It's great. You want a killer venue and delicious food, so don't skimp on the food or the restaurant venue. Trying to conserve budget by picking a middle class or like lower class restaurant is a recipe for failure, honestly. By picking top of the line locations, you show your prospects that you have the budget, the clout, and the experience to pull off a Class A event. Let's see. You want to have professional logistics. So I mentioned this earlier, but all of your marketing before your event will shape the perception of your event, and it will affect your show-up rate. So if you have excellent event logistics with proper registration process and professional reminders, you'll set the expectation that this is a serious and professional event. And as a result, your professionalism will be reciprocated by your audience with above average show-up rates. And we've seen this. I've personally seen how a messy registration process or unorganization can just wreak havoc on your full event. So you just want to keep things tight and organized and professional, and everything will be great. You want to have a strict RSVP list management. So the economics of Lunch and Learns work, but only if you're educating and feeding the right people, namely those in your target market. So I did mention this one before earlier. Occasionally, you're going to your email will fall into the wrong hands. Like it's just going to happen, and it's going to be forwarded along to people who are only interested in a free meal, of course. So if you focus on dentists and a bunch of lawyers have registered, you must uninvite them courteously, but quickly and firmly. If you keep your event focused on your target market, you can easily stay on message and cultivate the audience you're seeking. And lastly, repetition. Like anything in life, practice makes perfect. Too many business owners try something once or twice with marketing and experience lackluster results the first time and then give up. Lunch and Learns require patience, professionalism, and persistence. I have planned hundreds of Lunch and Learns during my time at eFolder, and I've personally hosted dozens across the country. So of course there were setbacks, but we didn't get to the kind of numbers without having setbacks. So we experienced them, we learned from them, and we carried on, and we have a very successful initiative to show for our persistence. So that's a good piece of advice I would like to offer everyone, is just don't give up. If you first try and you're disappointed with the results, don't worry about it, just keep trying. Okay, so I want to get into some questions. I know we have a couple here that have been asked throughout. Let me try to go in order here. Any suggestions on creating, oh wait, no, that's not the one I wanted. What are some effective subject lines for your email invites? That's a great question. We usually like to start specific and then get more personal. So our first subject line will be like eFolder, I can't even, what did we used to say? Complimentary lunch at Morton's Steakhouse covering Anchor, you know, just like specifically say it's a lunch and learn, so it's a complimentary lunch. And then as your emails progress, just get more friendly, and I think we ended our last email with, want to grab lunch on Friday? So when they see it in their inbox, they're more apt to open it because it looks like a personal message from someone. It's a little tricky, but we found that style of subject lines worked for us. Mark, do you have any insight into what subject lines have worked for you for your marketing efforts?
Yeah, I'd say very similar. You know, we start them out with, you know, like, you know, come enjoy a free lunch on Nex-Tech, or come and, you know, free lunch and learn about this or something like that. And then as we progress through the timeline, then we do get a little bit more personal, or maybe we'll give a little bit more info on what we're going to be covering, and then we kind of close it out with, you know, like kind of like what you said, kind of a personal invitation. Hey, you know, hope you can join me for lunch on this day, and you know, come win a free tablet or something. So
yeah,
we'll kind of
exactly.
unveil the giveaway or giveaways in that kind of last email of a personal invitation.
Yeah, that's great. That's like the best incentive I could think of, coming to a lunch besides a free meal. Okay, let's see. Any suggestions on creating the presentation based on target market? Does eFolder have a generic presentation that can be used? eFolder does not have a generic presentation to use for Lunch and Learns, just because the topics are endless, the formats are endless for presentation-wise, and all of the presentations that we have are specific to the products and services that we sell and that we promote on the road. But I would just say to make your presentations like I said, interactive. If you can, throw a demo in there, like Mark was saying. They bring iPads sometimes and have a demo, pass it around the room. Keep it educational, keep it professional, obviously, but keep it fun too. That's the advice that I have for that. What is the budget I should be planning for events like these? Great question. So if you're doing your lunches at Morton's or Ruth's Chris or the Capitol Grill, you're looking at about, for a private lunch with all the accoutrements for about 15 to 20 people, you're looking at probably $1,000 to $1,500, and that depends on to the minimum you work out with the restaurant reps. They can be more flexible, but for that number of people, it's going to be at least $1,000, and that's not including travel, hotel, airfare for your sales reps if they are traveling far to get to the lunch too. So keep that in mind as well. Let's see. I know you both said 3-course meals. What if we're a smaller company without that kind of budget? Are happy hours or small lunches still worth doing? Yeah, absolutely. Like we've done lunches. I mean, we've done like lower price level lunches too for the smaller markets. And I think any format, if you do a lunch and learn and you pay for someone's lunch, and I think anything works. But we have seen great success with doing it at higher end restaurants. That doesn't mean it won't work for you as a smaller company to do it in a different style market. So yeah, thank you for that question.
I think too with that is just start with what you can do, and as you're hosting events, then it's just like anything else. You may tweak your process here a little bit. Maybe you try a different entree, or you always make those adjustments until you kind of get a well-oiled machine, and then from that standpoint, you've got your process identified, and you follow that same process. That's where that repetition and that consistency comes in.
Exactly. Will we be able to view this recorded webinar in the future? If so, where? What link can I find it? Yeah, we'll be sending out a link to the recording and the slide deck following the webinar. So thank you for that question. What's an average cost per lunch? I just went over that. Where's the next lunch? You're making me hungry. We have actually put our Lunch and Learn initiative on hold for a couple months, but we're going to be starting back up, I think, in June or July. Should you ever limit the number of attendees? It's a good question. I think the most attendees we've ever had at a lunch, I would say, gosh, it was like 45 people, and I think that was one of our joint lunches. It might have been an open DNS lunch. So at that point, we had 2 reps, so it was manageable, but it was still way too many people. So I would say never limit the registrants, but if it gets out of control crazy, what we would do is we would reach out to companies and have them really just limit the guests that they bring to 1 person, because sometimes we'd have companies try to bring like 7 people. We're like, no, that's tacky. You can't do that. So sometimes that's where the problem comes from. You want to keep your person per company at about like 2 to 3. 3 really is the max.
And I think too, you have to pay attention to your room. Depending on the location and the private room that you have, sometimes you're limited on seating as well. So
exactly.
I think if you get over 40 attendees, another thing you can do is look at is communicating with those attendees and seeing if you could split off and do 2 events and have 20 at each or something like that. And I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I think you'll find you would be more effective with that than trying to cover a room of 40.
Yeah, sometimes if you try to overdo it, it can just have the opposite effect, and it can be a failure. And that just reminded me of something too. It works in the opposite way too. If you don't have that many people, say you have like 5 to 10 people, and the restaurant puts you in a cavernous room, like a huge room, that's not okay. You don't want to be hosting your room in like a big banquet hall. You want your setting to reflect the number of registrants that you do have. So that's where working with your restaurant coordinator really comes into importance there. Let's see. So this person says, so I'm hearing that email is the key. For promotion, yes, email is the #1 way that we promote our lunches. It's just it's just the most effective. It's the best way to reach people. When we were doing lunches in Canada, we had to be very wary of their Can Spam Act. As we all know, it's pretty strict. The repercussions are scary. So we didn't email our Canadian lunches. We would heavily rely on our sales reps for Canada to promote the lunches, and we did send out direct mail brochures for our lunches. You know, I don't think we saw that much of a great effect from that. I don't think people just throw their mail away nowadays. That was kind of an experiment that we had. So I wouldn't recommend doing too much physical mail promotion. And then someone just asked, do you cold call? Yeah, sometimes. If we're really low on a lunch, we'll work with our sales development representatives to just talk about the lunch on their cold calls. Sometimes people, don't always appreciate being called out of the blue, but if you're calling to invite them to an awesome free lunch, who would really deny that? I don't really know. So yeah, sometimes we do cold call, but I know, Mark, I think you rely a little bit more on your sales people for promotion, right?
Yeah, we do, and we do the same types of things. We will do the emailers. What we like about those is we can sort by vertical, we can sort by geographical area, those types of things, and email out to those contacts. Then also, if we get closer to the event and we need to generate a few more attendees or something like that, then that's when we really engage the reps and say, hey, you need to get on the phones, you need to get with your contacts and get a few more people. So
yeah, definitely. Okay, looks like I don't have any more questions. I think I just have one more slide. So we'll also be sending out a link to our Dropbox problem playbook. And this is great. This is a resource that we provide to our partners. There's a section in it that covers Lunch and Learns, and it has some of the screenshots that I shared in this presentation. It'll give you our email subject line information, snapshots of our email, of what our event page looks like. It'll provide the cadence for planning your event, and it has that timetable that I provided too about where to start a month leading up to a day with your event. So your pre-event checklist is in there. Lots of good stuff. It also, provides just good resources about file sync and, the problems with Dropbox, educating your clients about the dangers of consumer-grade file sync, and yeah. So that's a resource that we will be providing as well. All right, I just want to wrap things up. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, your experience with Lunch and Learns is so valuable. I hope everyone on the call just got a lot out of your advice and your experience, and I just thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me. We appreciate it. It was a good time.
Of course. All right, this is Courtney Durler signing off. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We will catch you next time. Thanks.